Good evening. For this presentation, we decided to choose the topic, the MBTI Professional Test Review, or the Myers-Briggs. And this presentation is presented by Marilyn Baston, Lindsay Locker, and Brittany Reinhold.
History of the MBTI. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator 1 Personality Inventory began its development by Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Myers in the 1920s. It is a personality inventory based on the theories proposed by Carl Jung. It seeks to learn how individuals understand their world, people in it, and how these perceptions affect their choices and decisions. In essence, it seeks to discover an individual's psychological core or makeup. Although it began its development in the 1920s, it was not until the 1940s that the MBTI became a reality with the help of Edward Hay, who was a personal consultant. Hay specialized in test construction, scoring, validation, and statistics. World War II created a gap in employment with many able-bodied men being sent to war. The MBTI helped women find the types of jobs that they were best suited for. After several revisions, the MBTI was officially published in the 1960s by the Educational Testing Service. Since its inception, the MBTI has gone through several revisions and refinements to what we know today, which is the MBTI Step 2, which is a 93 item questionnaire which ascribes individuals with one of 16 different personality types. These personality types can then be divided into 4 major MBTI dichotomies. They are extroversion, introversion, sensation, intuition, thinking, feeling, and judging and perceiving. This assessment is most often used in career counseling. Next. Who is MBTI appropriate for? The MBTI Form M assessment is appropriate for ages 14 and up, and the Q assessment is appropriate for ages 18 and up. Both forms are written at a 7th grade level. Because this assessment measures personality types, it is appropriate for both males and females. The MBTI has been administered in over 30 countries with different cultures in them. While the STJ types appeared to be dominant in all cultures, each culture's expression of their preferences looks different based on their culturally accepted norms. Next. Theory of personality. The MBTI is based on Carl Jung's theory of personality. Jung's theory of personality proposes that individuals can be grouped into 4 personality types that can best explain them: how individuals interact with others, gather information, make decisions, and organize their lives. The MBTI uses all of these as a means of creating a personality profile that helps its users learn how personality types can affect an individual's learning style. It is also thought that having this information can also improve other areas of functioning in an individual's life. Next.
So now we move on to the implementation of MBI. Like Marilyn said, it is a 93 question forced choice inventory. So what the forced choice means is that although respondents have the ability to skip questions, they have to make a choice based on, and it's just a two item choice. So the result of each item moves the respondent away from the midpoint in one direction or another. So those results are converted to the individual's 4-letter personality type. So we take those extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, and perceiving. And based on the questionnaires results, that's converted into a 4-letter personality type. And there are 16 combinations of personality types based on those 4 letters. And this is just used to, in many industries, it can be used in, like Marilyn said, it can be used in career counseling. It can be used in business and schools to identify one's needs, values, and interests. And a lot of times those results are used to match people with the right employer, or maybe within their organization in a position that they might feel more fulfilled in based on their type. Next. So this assessment does have some strengths and weaknesses. Some of the strengths is that it is widely available, and it's even available in 13 languages. There is that wide age range that we talked about earlier with who the MBTI is for. Anyone from high school age and up is able to take this test. So that's definitely a strength. And then that multicultural competence. There's been some studies that have shown that the MBTI personality types do appear in multiple cultures. So that's definitely a strength. The weaknesses are that it is based heavily on Jung's theory, and some researchers have said that Jung's theory was not meant to be a personality theory completely, to basically like look at personalities types. There just isn't enough evidence, some researchers have said. Then there also hasn't been long-term scientific experimentation to support the validity of the test. So that's another weakness that some have said. Now we move on to validity and reliability. So the validity, behavioral styles inventory supports the construct validity of all scales, but the judging and perceiving scale. There also hasn't been seen a significant score difference between genders, so that's good for the validity. The reliability, weaker reliability within the thinking and the feeling scale has been shown. And then also one study did show that fewer than half of the respondents retained their initial types over a 5-week period. So that was something that was a question for the reliability. And they also said that that one study that showed that fewer than half the respondents retained their initial types over that 5-week period said it almost showed not as much as a personality type, but a current state. So that was a question for reliability.
Now, for a review of the literature, a study was reviewed by Randall Isaacson and Sear that was essentially a meta-analysis of the Myers-Briggs. And some of their key points revolved around a lack of ability for participants to choose a neutral response. So within the Myers-Briggs, there you have to choose either on one end of the spectrum or on the other. And if you do choose a neutral response, it doesn't apply towards the score. And so they had addressed that as being a critique of the assessment. And something else that was found to be more confusing around it was how this assessment deviates from Jung's theory. And another piece of it that was difficult to understand was the idea that they were able to review forms F and G, and there are significant scientific experimentation on those 2 forms. However, on the newest form, there's not enough scientific experimentation for there to be a proper study conducted of that test, which makes it hard to critique whether or not the newest form of the assessment is valid and reliable. And going on to the next point, there is a lack of viable studies that make it difficult to properly test the reliability and the validity of the MBTI. As Brittany was saying previously, there is not a lot of research done on the reliability of the test, and so it's hard to review the test if there is not much research on that piece. And key points that were learned from the literature were that there is a general agreement around different personalities being grouped together. So within a lot of different fields or different different psychologists, there is this commonality that different personality types should be or could be grouped together, which is why the MBTI has been proven to be effective. And it also, like Brittany had mentioned previously, it is used in a wide variety of fields, which also makes it incredibly effective and helpful. And some of the major criticisms of the Myers-Briggs were the dichotomous nature, again, the idea of having to choose one side of the spectrum and not necessarily being able to be neutral. And there has been not much translation, or there's been a difficulty within the translation of continuous scores to normative categories. And there's also a lot of debate around whether or not it actually reflects the proper personality theory that it's based out of. One thing that did stand out in regards to the effectiveness of the Myers-Briggs was the indifference within it does make it stand out in comparison to other assessments. For example, there are a lot of assessments out there that have a positive or negative connotation when it comes to results that are derived from the assessment, but with the Myers-Briggs, there's not necessarily a positive or negative connotation with a result. Rather, it is further information on what kind of person you are, or what kind of job you can receive, or what kind of personality fits you best. These are our references, and thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our presentation.